first video with the new hair, but that's not the topic. Let's move on to the topic. So, in the, LGBT has been expanded quite a bit, and nowadays it's LGBTQIA. Now, MOGAI is, or Mongo, I don't know how the fuck people are supposed to say it, but anyways, MOGAI, yeah, I said that right the first time, is more inclusive one without, having to change it all the time because it's marginalized orientations, gender identities, and intersex. But anyway, a lot of people, they see the LGBTQIA and think, oh, the A is for allies. So basically people who aren't queer in any way, so cisgendered heterosexuals who are, supportive and, like having lots of friends who are in the community and like being in the community. But it's really fucking not. It's for asexual, aromantic, and agender people. So asexual people, a lot of people hear asexual and they're like, you can't be asexual. Can you reproduce by yourself? Or no, you can't be asexual. Because they're thinking about asexual reproduction versus asexuality as a sexual orientation. Because again, we're talking about orientations, not our reproductive capabilities, because by that same logic, a person can't technically be homosexual or bisexual or anything else, because, I guess bisexual kind of, but not really, because human beings as an organism, in terms of our reproductive capabilities, we are heterosexual organisms in terms, if we're going that route. But again, we're talking about sexual orientation, which is who you're sexually attracted to. So me saying I'm homosexual, that's fine. Someone saying they're bisexual, it doesn't exist, but it does. Sorry, a lot of people are like, that doesn't exist, but totally fucking does. They're not being selfish. It's a thing that exists. It's whatever. Same in asexual, same thing. And let's go to the Greek prefixes, which is what all this is. Homo meaning same, bi meaning two, pan meaning all, hetero meaning different, and a meaning like non or anti or lack of or whatever the hell. Kind of, how like we have prefixes to kind of like, like dis or whatever the fuck, or non or whatever, to kind of do the opposite of what the word it's prefixing. A is kind of like that. So an asexual person is a person without sexual attraction, and that's totally cool, man. And a lot of asexual people don't have sexual interest or desire, so basically they don't want to have sex either. But that's not true 100% of asexual people, because you can have sex with people you're not sexually attracted to, right? Like, yeah, it's super simple stuff, dude. So, except there's a lot of people out there who think it doesn't exist, and they treat people like crap, and they say shit like, you just haven't found the right person yet, or, oh, you must have had some traumatic sex thing in the past, or blah blah blah. All this other bullshit saying, excusing it away, or saying it's a mental illness, which actually, no, it's not DCIM, I don't know, the big book about mental disorders that gets updated regularly, in it does not classify asexuality as a mental illness. And when it's talking about lack of sexual interest in its symptoms, because that can be symptomatic of depression, but it says, if the person is suffering from a lack of sexual drive or interest, etc., unless the person identifies as asexual. It actually says asexuality is totally fine and not a symptom or mental illness or anything like that. So it's pretty simple stuff. It's just a lack of sexual attraction. Like, I don't get why it's so hard I'm sorry, my hair keeps falling down. When I first heard of it was when I was, first coming out, and I went to this queer youth group, and there was this really nice girl there who was one of the facilitators, and she was showing me around and all this other stuff. And then, being new to the community, I didn't realize that this was a weird thing to ask, but I said, oh, what's your sexual orientation? Because I was like, oh, queer people, I haven't met any other queer people before, this is fun. Anyways, and she's like, oh, well, I'm asexual. And I'm like, what the fuck's asexual? No, I just said, oh, I've never heard of that, what is that? And she's like, well, it just means I'm not sexually attracted to anyone. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because in my head, I was like, okay, keep in mind this is before I ever heard non-binary, genderqueer stuff, so sorry for my lack of gender inclusion, but anyways, in my head, I was kind of like, okay, so some people are attracted to the same gender, some people are attracted to the opposite gender, some people are attracted to both genders, and I guess some people aren't attracted to any genders at all. That's cool, let's move on and have cake or whatever the fuck we did after that, I don't remember. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. The first time I heard it, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I learned this new word, and let's move on with that. So I don't understand why people have such a hard time with that. But on the same line as the asexuality, there's another thing that people don't realize is that there is romantic attraction and sexual attraction, and they are two different things, and they don't always mash up completely identically. So you could have a sexual orientation that's one thing, and a romantic attraction that's another. Like, you could be homosexual but biromantic. So you are sexually attracted to the persons of the same sex only, but when it comes to people that you like having relationship type stuff with, you like people of multiple genders and whatnot. Anyways, so that's cool beans. But aromantic is that same sort of thing where you don't have romantic attraction or desire. Like, you don't want to be in a romantic relationship, and you just don't see the point in that. Now, not all there are plenty of people who are aromantic but are totally interested in sex and having sexual relationships. They tend to do the friends with benefits thing, though more often than not because they're not interested in having the romantic relationship, and that's totally cool beans. Some people are like that. That said, that's not an excuse for you to cheat on your friends and your girlfriends or boyfriends or significant others of other genders. So, yeah, it's totally valid romantic orientation, just like asexuality is a totally valid sexual orientation. And by the way, so is pansexuality and bisexuality, which a lot of people think isn't, or it's gritty or bullshit like that. And now one last thing before I finish this video, hopefully it doesn't end up being too long, is I'm just going to talk briefly about demisexuality, which is kind of halfway between, demi meaning half, is kind of halfway between the asexuality and the other sexual orientations. Basically, it's you don't really feel sexual attraction to anyone until you meet that someone special. So you're kind of more attracted to, not so much like their personality, who they are inside, but while it is that, but it's kind of also just their, maybe their expression, or basically you don't find them physically attractive until you really get to know them, or you learn more about their personality or their behaviorisms and things like that. And sorry again if I'm messing up definitions, because again, I am not these things. I am just trying to explain them to the best of my ability from what I have been taught by other people who are these things. So I think I covered everything I wanted to cover in this video. So cool beans. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to throw them in the comment section. And if I fudged up a definition, or I didn't say it properly, or whatever the hell, but you know better than me because you probably are the sexual orientation that I was talking about, or romantic, wherever the fuck, then feel free to pop in with to put the proper stuff in the diddly fucking thing I'm stuttering. I'm gonna shut up and say thanks for watching my video.